you doing? I'm Chef Troy Ellis and welcome to my kitchen. I have to admit, I have a sweet tooth. So today, it's all about dessert. So we're gonna make a delicious creme brulee bread pudding. It's gonna be a creme brulee custard with some challah bread, with some Grand Marnier soaked raisins, and a lovely bourbon caramel sauce. Let me share this with you, so let's get started. I actually love bread pudding. It's something that I remember as a young kid wondering what it was. I seen my father eat it, and then I had a little taste, and I was in love. It was heaven for me. So I decided to kind of make my own version of this bread pudding. We have some lovely challah bread that we're going to cube. It's stale, so we want to make sure that it absorbs all our custard. We have some toasted pecans here that we're going to add to our bread pudding. Some sugar, some cinnamon stick, some raisins, and some Grand Marnier and some bourbon. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get our raisins soaking in our Grand Marnier. So come on over to the stove with me. Okay, so now we have two pots here. One has our half and half in it that has a split vanilla bean. I love to use half and half because it's a little thinner than heavy cream, but it's a little bit thicker than milk, and it gives a great consistency to your custard. We're bringing this up to temperature, and then once we bring it up to temperature, we'll mix it with our eggs and our sugar, and then we'll put it back on to thicken up. And here we have another pot on that we're going to put our Grand Marnier. I love these little things we get from the wine and spirit store. They're great for cooking when you don't need a lot of a product. I'll pour my Grand Marnier in here, bring it up to a little bit of temperature. Once I bring it up to temperature, I'm going to turn it off. And all I'm going to do is now add my raisins. And all I want this to do is have my raisins soak up the Grand Marnier. And what this is going to do is just all the Grand Marnier is going to soak into the raisin. So when you take a bite of the raisin, you're going to get the sweetness from the raisin, some of that great flavor from the Grand Marnier. It's going to be delicious in our bread pudding. Okay. Now that our cream is up to temperature, we're going to add 2 cinnamon sticks to this, and this is going to add a lovely cinnamon flavor to our custard. Now that we have our cream with our vanilla and our cinnamon stick, and our raisins are soaking up that lovely Grand Marnier, we have our eggs here. I have 4 egg yolks and 2 regular eggs, and to that I'm going to add a cup of sugar. Just slowly whisking this until it gets incorporated. This is going to add our sweetness to our cream, and then the egg is going to make our custard. So when we bake it with our challah bread, it's going to set nicely. Get it all in there. So now we're going to check on our cream, and then we'll incorporate our eggs. So right now I'm checking on our half and half with our vanilla and our cinnamon stick. I just want to check the consistency of it, make sure that the flavors seem to be getting incorporated. You can see the lovely vanilla beans in here, and our cinnamon sticks are somewhere in here. So this is going to be a delicious custard when we get done. Funny thing, I make this bread pudding for my family. I've made it for clients, and they absolutely seem to love it. So I've always seen a way to try to find a way to make it different, add a twist to it. So we're going to make the lovely caramel to go with it, our raisins, and then we're also going to add some toasted pecans just to add a nice nutty flavor to it as well. So the type of bread we're going to use for our bread pudding is challah bread. It's a Jewish bread that has a lovely weave pattern in it. It's light, it's got a nice sweet flavor to it. As you can see, I've cubed half of it up in our bread pan, and I left the other half here. Probably going to take that home with me tonight, and me and the kids will get down on this. So right now we're going to go back, check on our custard, combine it with our eggs, and then we'll be able to put this all together. All right, I'm checking on our half and half here in our custard mixture. I'm going to take it over to our table here because we're going to temper our eggs into it and then put it back on the stove. So come on with me. So we have our strained half and half mixture with our vanilla and infused with our cinnamon, and we have our eggs. So what we're going to do is temper. Basically add a little bit of our hot liquid to our eggs to bring up the eggs to the same temperature as the cream, because if not, we're going to have scrambled eggs and nobody wants that. So basically what we're going to do is take a little bit of our half and half mixture and add it to our eggs. And then we're just going to slowly whisk this in. And we're just going to repeat this process until we have a fully incorporated cream and egg mixture here. And just keep doing this process because basically we just want our eggs to come up to temperature properly. No scrambled eggs. And this is going to make for a lovely custard. Alright, so we're almost there. As I keep adding our hot liquid to our eggs, keep whisking. So now what I'm going to do is add our liquid back into our bowl here. And we'll whisk it together. Now our eggs are fully incorporated with our half and half mixture. So we're gonna now put this back on the stove, heat it back up so it'll thicken up a little bit with the eggs, and then we'll combine it with our raisins and our bread and our toasted pecans and put it in the oven. So we have our custard mixture back on. As you can see, it's much thicker than it was when we just had the half and half and the vanilla and the cinnamon sticks. That's because the eggs are in there and it's thickening it up. This is actually how you make traditional creme brulee. You add eggs with custard and vanilla, and basically the difference is you take this mixture and you add it and you bake it in a water bath, and then it sets and becomes a creamy custardy mixture. And you take some sugar and then you blow torch the sugar on top of it when it's done, and you have a hard outer exterior, and then when you crack through that, you have a nice, almost like pudding-like consistency underneath. It's a delicious dessert. So the only difference here is we're going to use the same type of custard, but we're going to use it in our bread pudding. I'll name creme brulee bread pudding. So we took our custard mixture off the stove. It's cooled down a little bit. Now we're going to add, what we're going to do is we're going to add our bread to our custard, and we'll allow this to soak up the custard, and then to that we're going to add our toasted pecans and our raisins back here. And we just want this to sit in here and soak this up. All right, so our bread has been soaking up that lovely custard. So to that we're going to add some of our Grand Marnier soaked raisins and some of our toasted pecans. And we're just going to kindly just slowly incorporate all of this in here together. Add a little bit more pecans. So we've added our raisins and our pecans. I'm just going to incorporate it, stir this all together nicely. And we're going to put it in a pan, get ready to put it in the oven. So now I'm going to add our custard with our bread and our toasted pecans and our raisins into our pan right here. And what I like to do is just add a little hint of nutmeg. I love the flavor of nutmeg. It's very powerful, so you don't want to add a lot, but just a hint is delicious. Just a little sprinkle of nutmeg. And there we have it. So now, get ready, put it in our water bath. So I have our oven open here with our water bath. The temperature is on 325. The reason why I'm using a water bath is because custard is very sensitive. So in order for the custard to cook evenly, it needs to be cooked in water. So a lot of times making creme brulees or creme caramels, bread puddings, cheesecakes, anything with an egg-like custard, you need to cook in a water bath to make sure that it cooks evenly, no burning, and it's nice and creamy all the way through. So I'm going to sit this in our water bath. Push it on our oven. In about 30-35 minutes, we should be ready to go. Next, we'll get working on our bourbon caramel sauce. Now that our bread pudding is in the oven, it's time to make our bourbon caramel sauce. So it's quite simple. We have some melted butter here, a cup of packed brown sugar, heavy cream, some Jim Beam, and a little bit of vanilla. So come back on the stove and we'll put this together. All right, so we have a melted butter here. We're going to add our dark brown sugar. And all we want to do is just wait till the sugar starts to dissolve in the butter and starts to melt. Once this starts to dissolve, check our temperature here, we'll add our heavy cream, our bourbon, and a little bit of vanilla, and it'll come out delicious. So what I've done so far is our sugar has dissolved, as you can see, and with our butter. So what I'm going to do now is add a little bit of our bourbon whiskey here. As you can see, it's starting to come together real nice, rich, dark color. Just going to add a little bit of bourbon. The reason why I took it off the flame is because alcohol is flammable, and obviously you get a nice poof of fire. So I like to add alcohol to anything off the flame. So now I'm going to incorporate it, and then we'll add it back on to our flame to come together. Smells absolutely delicious. It's going to be lovely with our bread pudding. Probably add a little bit more cream. As you can see, we incorporated. It's got a beautiful dark mahogany color. And it'll be almost ready to go. We'll check on our bread pudding. We'll be good to go. All right, so now I'm gonna add just a little bit, about a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And this will be almost ready to go. We're gonna check on our bread pudding. Should be almost done. And then we'll put this all together on our plate. Delicious. Like you can see, the custard is set. It's nice. The bread on top is, nice crusty to it, so it's nice and moist on the inside. The caramel is done. And what I've done, I've saved some of our crushed pecans and some of our raisins that we soaked in Creme. And what I do like to play for people is I take a nice piece of our bread pudding here. That nice piece sectioned out. So what I do is I take a little bit of our bourbon caramel, and I just like to make a little, just kind of work it around a little bit more. Kind of work it around. We get a nice pound of some circle. Take a piece of our bread pudding out. You sit right in the center like that. And then we take a little bit of our raisins that we soaked around my leg and put them on the side. A little bit. Then we take a little bit of our chocolate caramel. Go around like such. We take a little bit of our caramel and pour it on top. There you go. Creme brulee bread pudding. Thanks for joining me today. This recipe and all my recipes can be found on choicetaste.blogspot.com. If you need to contact me for any catering or personal chef needs, you can find my info at www.choicetaste.com. See you guys next time when we kick up a classic.